This is Sarah with Survival State of Mind. I'm going to do a little project today. It's called a book safe, and I'm sure you've heard of it. What you do is you get a nice thick book, operations research. You know, who needs that anymore? You glue the pages down, you cut out the shape of whatever you want to put in there, either make it one big safe or a gun or something, but that takes a lot of time and effort. What we have done is gone to our local craft store and purchased a book box. This is a close-up of the book box. This is a nice traditional book frame, some gilding and things like that. We've got an image of pages. It's actually just a cardboard sticker. When you open it up, it's got a slight magnetic trim on the outside to hold it shut, and a decorative inside, which unfortunately is going to be mostly covered by our box. But they come in a bunch of different designs, his and hers, as it were. And right. What we're going to do is, we got our stuff here. We got a T-square, a saw, some pencils, and an X-Acto knife. We got some foam, some styrofoam, and we are going to cut this to fill the book. Then we're going to cut out what we want. In this case, we're going to be doing a gun safe, concealed place to keep your weapon, bookshelf or wherever. Once we cut out the foam, we've got this very stylish felt here that we're going to cover it with to both protect the weapon and make it look a little nice on the inside. As always, before we start anything with a firearm, I'm going to check it, have it cleared for safety. Cameraman checks, we're good?
Safe.
Okay, now I'll lock that weapon back up on safe there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to check the layout of my box. Here's my box. Here we've got a just a real small Ruger LC9. I'm left-handed, so I'm thinking in my mind, if I have this on a bookshelf, when I pull it out of the bookshelf and open it, I'm going to want to reach here. I'm going to want to have the magazines on the right-hand side, and so if I'm doing this in the dark, you know, heaven forbid, in a security situation, I can do this without thinking about it. I'm going to have the Ruger facing this way, exactly how I'm going to want it after I put the foam in. I've got two magazines. I have a safety key. This is a special locking mechanism on the LC9. This takes the place of a trigger lock, which is extremely important, especially in a household if you've got any children or unfamiliar folks running around. So we've got the layout of the box. I've got enough room. It's a nice clean setup. There's nothing to get in the way if I'm doing this in the dark or in a hurry, something like that. It's going to be a very practiced movement. First is we're going to take this foam here. Obviously it's not thick enough, so we're going to have to cut several pieces, stack them and glue them together. The top part, since we want a little bit of security around the edge of the box here, I'm going to take this as a squishier foam. It's like a craft foam for kids. I'm going to take this and we're going to cut it, probably be just inside the lip of this here. It's going to sit on the top. I'm going to decorate that with a piece of this embossed foam. Got this at the same craft store. Real nice sharp look to it. This same foam is going to be used once we cut the holes in the foam for each of our pieces, making sure that the pieces we cut are large enough that the foam, when it sits in these cut holes, that it will still hold what we need to snugly without making it too difficult to get out. We have our layout. We know we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and get started cutting. Making sure you make your measurements from the inside section of this book box. I'm going to make a mark in the inside corner here. I'm going to make a mark on the inside corner over here. A nice soft lead pencil marks the styrofoam really well. So our marks are going to be, you know, the inch here. Take a T-square, whatever straight edge you have. Drawing a straight line. Got a mark over here. Going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw a straight line. What I did here was I went ahead and measured. It was just over 7 inches, and I continued that line. Here, another 7 inches. Made my mark here, and then took the square to take the edges. So I've got two evenly sized pieces, and we're going to cut these out before we start actually putting the custom spaces into them for the gun and the magazines and the key. Actually cutting the foam, there's a lot of different options. You've got your high-end hot wire foam cutters or some sort of a heated knife specifically designed for cutting foam, which are great. They run between $20 and $25. for the amount of foam cutting we're going to be doing, we decided not to go there. If you want to use a serrated kitchen knife, you can wax it, rub it against a candle, and that will help. We are using a small wood saw. Something very important with this styrofoam, it needs to be sharp and efficient because this stuff will flake away in big chunks and you'll get a kind of a rough edge. We're going to cut this along these lines and then we're going to start the custom work. We learned two things when we went outside to cut this foam. One, unless you want a permanent inside winter snowstorm, do it outside. And two, the thickness of the saw we were using had a pretty profound effect on the measurements we did not take into account. Our first piece fits fairly snugly. As you can see, there's just barely enough wiggle room. The second piece, however, is quite a bit off. It's got quite a bit of wiggle room here. End result, it's not exactly perfect, but it's going to be mitigated by the fact that it's going to be glued into the box itself. The two pieces are going to be glued together. And that since the top piece fits snugly enough, we're going to be alright with that. Now a little bit of space we have here around the edges is perfect because we're going to put the felt over top before we glue it into the box. So that'll make the felt fit nice and snugly. It's going to be a good fit overall. Our next step is to trace the elements of the custom piece. What we're going to do is we're going to have two parts to this. We're going to start with thickness being the first thing, because that's going to dictate how we're going to lay the magazines and stuff like that, which is part of the learning process that I'm going through here with y'all. The weapon itself is almost perfectly thick as this piece of styrofoam. It's my little carry gun, so it's a nice simple little instrument, a nice thin gun. It's going to be perfect for this piece of styrofoam. Obviously the key is going to be a very, very narrow depression, so I'm not worried about the size there. Now the magazines here, if we lay it, see obviously it's going to have to go through more than one piece of foam to lay those like that. So if we turn it on their side, we just have to make a depression through one piece of foam. It's going to simplify our final process and give us a nice, make sure we've got enough room, but it's going to give us a nice layout of what we have here. We'll start with our weapon here. Again, this is going to be on the bottom. Just make sure the weight is on the bottom, give it a nice sturdy base. Got our key here. Now when we place the magazines again, I've got to think, if I'm reaching into this box, I'm going to flip the lid open this way. I'm left-handed, I reach in left-handed. I need to face my magazines, so if I pull a magazine out, it's going to instinctively go in the appropriate direction. Make sure I'm not fuddy-duddying it in the middle of the night or whatever, going the wrong way. Got one here. Got one here. Make sure they're lined up. We're going to take the same soft lead pencil here and do a real general trace. Okay? Knowing that there's going to be felt around the inside of these pockets here. So it doesn't need to be a perfect trace, and in fact we want it to be maybe just a smidge big. It's a fine balance between being too loose and fitting too tightly with the felt in there. So what's very important about what we are doing here is that this is not a secure gun case. This is not a traveling case. This is not a gun safe. This is a decorative case in a cute little peacock box that holds my carry weapon. It's a small weapon. It's a small case. It's girls and guns, and I love it. And we're going to go with that. So this is not a this is not going to keep your kids out of it. So be a responsible gun owner. Make sure your gun is locked. That's what this is for. This is a safety lock for my weapon. I'm never going to teach my kids how to use this until they're old enough to understand the severity of the power they have with that little key. So I'm going to finish tracing this. Then we are going to go back outside and use our X-Acto knife. I suppose if we had a proper heat tool it would be a little bit quicker, but hey, we work with what we have. You can see I did some extra tracings there, but we're going to go ahead and cut out these depressions, and this one's going to cut all the way through, and the weapon will sit on the second piece of foam there. We have cut the shapes out of the foam. Learned a couple things. If your X-Acto or whatever you're using does not go all the way through, adapt and overcome, right? We took a toothpick and pushed it all the way through. And then when you turned it over, you saw a series of perforated holes to help finish putting it all the way through. I had to go back and forth a couple times to make sure we had a good fit. If you're having trouble getting a good fit with things like magazines, make sure that spots like this, the bottom of the foot, that sticks out, make sure that there's plenty of cut there. I've also gone ahead and cut like a little thumb dip into here. So there will be, it's a snug fit, but there's a slight depression here that I can easily get my thumb in there. And I did that here as well with my key across the top there, so I can get my finger in there nice and easy. As you can see, this is going to fit real nice. The next step is going to be to glue our two pieces together. Once we have those glued together, we're going to go ahead and start working with the felt. We have enough felt because remember, you need room to make the depression. So we have, this will probably take two pieces to cover entirely. And we're going to push it down into here, make sure we get a nice snug fit. Glue the sides. We may have to trim some of the corners to make sure it fits nicely. But this is going to be our next step. What we are doing now is using the amazing, wonderful, and delightful Elmer's glue to glue these pieces together to give it some stability. And once this is dry, we can use this to start pressing the felt into these depressions. And we're going to be using several pieces and probably trimming it a little bit and adding some extra strips at the end to deal with the bunching and things at the corners to give it a nice polished finish. But for now, we're going to give this a chance to dry. What I'm doing is there's no glue on it or anything on here yet. I'm just trying to shape the felt. So I'm going to do this obviously in two pieces. This felt is fairly flexible and malleable. I'm going to hold the weapon in place, kind of tug the felt around it. I'm going to get some glue, real light amount of glue because I'm using Elmer's and that tends to soak through felt. But I'm going to get some glue and glue around the edges here. Maybe use a couple spots of glue underneath, but really probably not too much where the actual gun is, just because I want to keep from the glue from coming through the felt and spreading. So I'm going to do that. Try and get some, at least a little bit on the sides there to make it look more finished. Do that again here, and if I need to, I'm going to take cutting off the edge of here and maybe put a strip here or just something to seam these two parts together, make the whole piece flow real nice. I've also decided to take this piece of foam here, and instead of gluing it directly onto here and covering this beautiful section of book here with this beautiful peacock design, I'm going to take this and cut it to size to fit within the frame of this book along the top. Let me show you why here. So when this gets pushed in here, oops, it actually fits pretty well without the felt. So it's going to be perfect with the felt. It'll be nice and snug. So you see there's about a half inch, just less than a half inch, and this foam will fit nicely to help cover that up. So what I'm going to do is take this and cut it to fit, take a piece of felt on each side, and leave some to hang off the edge here on either side. So I will have like an edge here. And then I'm going to take that edge and I'll stuff it down the side and glue it in place so it'll be like a flap that'll be covered with the felt. So when you open the box, you'll see the felt pad there. Maybe put a little loop on it as a handle, and then you've got to fold it back to get to the weapon. I think that'll look a little bit nicer. That'll be a nice finishing touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all this stuff, see what it looks like, and if everything goes well, next time it'll be a finished product. Here's the almost final result. What I found was Elmer's glue wasn't quite sufficient for what I needed. Probably go with one of those spray epoxies that covers a little bit more, dries a little quicker. But this is what we have. So the box opens here. This flap needs to be made a little tighter. This I'm going to re-epoxy this, and when I do that I'll trim down the edges a little bit. It opens up here, and a pretty nice looking setup. Everything is easily accessible. I've got my little thumb divots here for my magazines, and my key here. Another thing I did was there's physical tacking holding the felt in place on the sides, some pins in there to physically hold it. Like I said, the Elmer's wasn't quite what I needed, but I'm not taking this out of this box ever, so as long as it's tucked down where it needs to be for now, I'm never going to take it apart, so there's no reason to be concerned about imperfect edges down the bottom and possible glue issues. So all in all, this is a fun project. I really enjoyed it. It's got a nice secure seal. I can press that down in there. It's real nice, just a little snug, and close it up. And there is my book box. Again, as I mentioned before, this is not a gun safe. This gun is currently locked with a trigger lock. Of course, it's in safe. There's no ammunition in here. This isn't designed to keep your kids away from your gun. This is designed to be a decorative project and a fun way to store a weapon. But make sure that you are a responsible gun owner and take care of safety in your house. We're all responsible for our own safety and for the safety of those in our family. So, thanks for watching. Have a great day.